Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Back to the Franchise.
You've got to come back with me.
Where?
Back to the
Franchise.
This is our third episode, and we are capping our trilogy recap of the original Star Wars trilogy with episode 6, Return of the Jedi. My name is Timothy Glenn. I am your host.
I am Tanner Wilcox, your co-host.
And if you're listening to this on the day it's released, we just want to say Happy St. Patrick's Day. What a celebration to watch this movie.
They correlate so well.
I mean, is it not a St. Patrick's Day movie? I feel like it is, you know?
Is there a St. Patrick's Day movie that exists? I don't know that there is.
It's called Return of the Jedi, Tanner, because, I mean, Luke's new lightsaber in this movie, what color is it?
Oh, that's true. Okay, so we got a green lightsaber. You know, the Forest of Endor. That's pretty green. We'll cut it. It's fitting enough. We'll clap on it.
There you go. Master Yoda, also green. Coincidence? I think not. Anyway, thank you for joining us. We're actually recording this on the day that our first episode is now dropped, so we are officially a real podcast. Very exciting. We're glad that you're still listening to us. Apparently, we haven't turned you off yet in 2 episodes.
Yeah, well, you know, we actually haven't had any listeners yet, so we'll see. We'll see if we get turned off. But please go listen so that we can quit our day jobs.
Now, technically, Tanner, according to our studio, we've actually had 7 listeners so far, including my sister. Yeah.
What? Single digits? Let's bump those numbers up. Let's bump those numbers up to the dozens, you guys. The dozens.
Those are rookie numbers in this racket. You got to bump up those numbers in this racket. Anyway, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're here every Tuesday with new episodes wherever you get your podcasts. We are at the third episode of the Star Wars franchise recap as we count down to the new movie, The Mandalorian and Grogu, which comes out in May. Just to introduce this movie, though, Return of the Jedi, episode 6. This movie came out also in May of 1983, May 25th to be exact. So another Memorial Day release, I believe, directed by Richard Marquand.
Marquand. What a name.
Yeah, you're going to do another name hazing, Tanner, after the last one. Was the last one Gil something?
Oh, God, yeah. You know what? I feel like men in Hollywood that were the producers, directors, executives from the 60s to the 90s. It was just like, what are we doing? Where do these people come from? It's like stage names for producers and directors, but they're not good. And you know what? Richard Marquand, if you're listening to this, I apologize.
God, now I got to look up if he's dead or not. Yeah, he's dead. He died 4 years after this came out.
Please accept my posthumous apology.
Okay, Richard, if you're a Force ghost, we're sorry. Anyway, might cut that. Yes, directed by Richard Marquand, written by Lawrence Kasdan and George Lucas. We're just going to say right now, this before we get into the movie itself, this is your spoiler warning. This movie is 43 years old now as we record, so either you haven't seen it or either you've seen it or you haven't seen it, so or you're not going to. So yeah, we're not worried about that. Before we get into it, though, Tanner, what is your personal history with this one? We talked a little bit about our personal histories with Star Wars as a franchise. We talked about how we came to watch the first 2 movies, but getting into this one in particular, and this what was then the final movie, what's your experience with this one?
Well, you know, I think upon I've already talked about like my discovery of A New Hope and Empire. So I think that when I finally found those movies, I just watched this one, you know, accordingly. I don't remember like the first time I ever watched it. What I do remember is the accessibility of this one was much easier because the majority of it is filmed in Northern California in the woods. And, you know, I grew up rurally, a lot of woods. So this is the one that me and my cousins would play outside the most.
You would play Return of the Jedi?
All the time.
How do you play a movie? What were the dynamics?
I mean, I guess it could have been anything. We just run through the woods and pretend like we're shooting at each other. So it was really a chameleon of games. It could be Star Wars. It could be Cops and Robbers. It could be Little House on the Prairie. It could be whatever.
I have a very distinct memory of me doing the same thing in elementary school, except we were playing Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase.
See, that one I feel like is not as accessible. How do you... What an odd thing to say.
Don't ask me how. I mean, one of us is the cyber demon, I guess. Hey, you just unlocked a memory for me. You know, that's kind of your own fault. Yeah, the power of imagination, folks. You know, you can literally be anywhere. But going into my history with this movie, this was my favorite Star Wars movie as a kid. I don't know in what order. I might have watched it a long time ago, probably the original order. But this one was the one that I like to revisit the most. And I mean, it's probably not a coincidence because this movie, more than the first two, is made for children, which we'll get into later on. And whether or not that works or not, but I really enjoyed back then the Tatooine sequences, everything up to the execution supposedly of Luke and Han at the Sarlacc pit was my favorite part of the movie. And I also, of course, love the Ewok stuff. But going back to it again, I don't feel the same way. And that's a little bit of a tease for later. But yeah, a little bit of a shift for me in this movie.
Yeah, I feel that way too. I mean, you would think that as like kind of the finale of them, it would be the most like epic feeling, and it runs short on that a little bit for me.
Yeah, we'll break it down a little bit, but first let's time travel back to 1980, which is when the Empire Strikes Back came out. And of course, when this movie was put into production, Empire was also a really big success at the time. And as we went into in the last movie, not quite as much of a success as A New Hope, but definitely, there was still huge interest in the franchise. And, leaving out a cliffhanger and audiences wanting more was all the actual impetus they needed to actually make the third one. So as soon as the movie came out, audiences loved it again. Part of that is, Fox quickly greenlights this movie, which now not really a difficult decision on their end.
Oh, it's again, we're back to Toy Story with the money, 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 money.
But at least Toy Story has like 11 years between 2 and 3.
No, just my own personal quote with it.
Okay, yes, we say that as Toy Story 5 is coming out, the third final movie in the franchise this year. Anyway, we're not talking about Toy Story. We're talking about Star Wars and the quest for more money. George Lucas didn't direct the last one. Last one was Irvin Kershner. George Lucas said he had a tough time filming the first Star Wars movie. It took a really big impact on his health, and that's why he stepped away from Empire, and he does the same pretty much with this one. He asked Irvin Kershner to direct this one again, but he turns it down. And then that kind of just kickstarts this whole musical chairs of almost directors, I guess. So the first choice for Lucas to have as the new director after Kershner turns it down is Steven Spielberg, who, he checks a lot of boxes and a lot of different fronts in terms of tone and whatnot. But he's also a close friend of George Lucas going back a few years. He's, of course, done Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So he was already a very established director. But you ever see those Geico commercials where it's like Kembe Mutombo, the basketball player at the grocery store who spikes the items going into the cart and he goes, "Not today, That's basically what the Directors Guild of America did to this movie, to Spielberg to be able to direct this movie.
Lord. So why were they so against Spielberg doing it?
So it kind of goes back to George Lucas, actually, because George Lucas fought with the DGA a lot on the title crawl in Empire and the first movie. It was kind of like studio regulation to have credits show up at the beginning, directed by, starring, written by, all that jazz. But Lucas, of course, wanted to have the crawl, where this new thing where you just throw yourself into the world and here's the plot of the movie, here's the title, and then we just go into it. We're not really going to acknowledge that this is actually a film you're watching and not like, an immersive story. So Lucas, over this whole beef, leaves the Directors Guild of America over this. And so when he wants Spielberg to direct it, Spielberg is part of the Directors Guild. And because of the controversy with Lucas, the Directors Guild actually denies Spielberg the ability to work on this movie with George Lucas because of George Lucas's, it's a very petty decision on their part. But I feel like that would have been like a pretty good fit to have. I know Spielberg is doing a lot of different things at this time. He, of course, also does Raiders of the Lost Ark in 81, but I don't know. Steven Spielberg directing a Star Wars movie, it's kind of like a wet dream kind of scenario.
Well, yeah, and you think that, I don't know, Hollywood is so weird because you have, a franchise starting, I guess, first two films where you get like pushback after pushback and they're like, we don't think it's going to be successful. We want you to do this and this and this and XYZ. And then the first one comes out and it's a major success. And then the second one comes out and they have all their pushback and you do all the things that they want. And then that's a major success. And it's like, by the third and final one, just let them do what they want to do. They clearly know what they're doing. You're going to get a moneymaker.
Yeah, you got the biggest movie of all time, followed by also a very successful sequel. You're doing one more, supposedly.
And then if they're going to pitch a very successful director, why would you be like, no, actually?
Yeah, it's all just studio politics, and it all comes down to like, behind the scenes, backroom dealings. No one in these decisions had any, motive for preserving the quality of the movie, itself.
All the Aka politics.
I have a few really weird directors that were pitched for this movie. We'll start with David Lynch, who at this point had done Eraserhead, and The Elephant Man. So I don't know. The Elephant Man, it was a big, awards movie. He was nominated for the Oscar for that movie, which came out the same year as Empire in 1980. So he was a hot name, but David Lynch doing Star Wars, yeah, no.
Yeah, but they still do that. You get an indie director who wins an Oscar, and then they're like, oh, we'll give you a Marvel movie now. And it's like, oh, that's not really their cup of tea. But
Yeah, they try to standardize everyone who has success, and that happens all the time now. Although we do pretty much get David Lynch's Star Wars anyway, because his next movie is Dune, which comes out in 1984, I believe. Have you seen the original Dune movie, Tanner?
Sometimes I wish I hadn't, but yeah.
That was his first and probably his only real foray into franchise genre movie making was Dune, because the rest of David Lynch's career is pretty much more like Eraserhead. It's Twin Peaks, it's Mulholland Drive, it's abstract filmmaking. So I think David Lynch was right to turn it down, knowing he wasn't right to take he wasn't right to take Dune either, but at least he doesn't do Star Wars.
Many people don't know this, but Kyle MacLachlan with his spice eyes is actually my sleep paralysis demon. So
The Spice Eyes? Oh, from Dune?
yes, with his glowing blue eyes from the original Dune.
I gotta look this up because it's one of the I haven't seen it in a while since I've seen it. Kyle MacLachlan, Dune. Oh yeah. Oh, they're really blue. Wow. Yeah. Everyone do yourself a favor and look up Dune 1984. Anyway, David Lynch passes. Next up, even an equally weird choice is David Cronenberg, who is known today as the master of body horror with The Fly and some stuff like that. At that point, he'd only done Scanners at that point, and Scanners, I mean, that comes out in 1981, I think. That's admirable for its it's admirable for its practical effects, So you have a director who shows he knows how to work in that. So I understand it from that level that he's a craftsman, but again, different tones.
Yeah, I feel like this movie would have gone in a different direction with either of them.
Can you imagine David Cronenberg's Sarlacc pit?
I just think, and I'm like, wasn't Return of the Jedi more child-based? And maybe that was studio-driven to have it more child-based, but I'm like, yeah, let's get a body horror director in here, just...
Well, it was early days of production, but yes, it's a weird choice. I wouldn't hire David Cronenberg to do any Star Wars today. Maybe an episode of like The Mandalorian or whatever, but not a movie.
No.
So yeah, Cronenberg also declines. He knows what he likes. He wants to do his own screenplays, so he turns it down. And then we go 3 for 3 on weird directors. Apparently Steven Spielberg recommended Paul Verhoeven of Basic Instinct and Starship Troopers fame and Showgirls.
Had he done anything before? Because his well-known movies were all way after. So what had he done up to that point?
He did a movie called Spetters, which I'm not familiar with. It was a 1980 Dutch film. Apparently it was enough to get him noticed, but apparently Spielberg recommended him before seeing the movie. And then once he saw Spetters, which is a sexual, I guess, just as sexual as his later movies, Spielberg withdrew his own recommendation. Yeah, smart call, probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, a bunch of weird possibilities for this movie. I can't imagine any of these guys directing Return of the Jedi, but curious to note. And then, but lastly, we get into Richard Marquand, who's hired. And who is Richard Marquand, Tanner?
Well, a man with a funny name.
Yeah. And again, kind of more of a mystery kind of director. I've looked into his filmography. He's made movies before this called The Legacy, Birth of the Beatles, Eye of the Needle. I don't know any of those.
No. Well, and then I was like, he hasn't done anything since 1987, but it's because he died. R.I.P. Sorry.
Anyway, so yeah, Richard Marquand, definitely this is his big claim to fame directing this movie, but it's still definitely a weird choice to go from. Like, okay, we're gonna get Spielberg, we're gonna get Lynch, we're gonna get Cronenberg, maybe Verhoeven, and then Richard Marquand. It's like, oh, okay. That's kind of like a change of pace right there, but sure.
Yeah. Although I will say that he did Eye of the Needle, which I did not know was a film until just now. But Eye of the Needle is a Ken Follett book, and I trust that it's great because he's my favorite author. Shameless plug for Ken Follett. If you haven't read Pillars of the Earth, go do it.
Okay, well, I guess if you gotta watch Eye of the Needle now, Tanner.
Now I do. Yeah. Plus it's got Donald Sutherland in it. What is this movie?
All right, we're going to stop recording. We're going to have you go watch Eye of the Needle, come back, report on Richard Marquand.
I'll be back in an hour and 53 minutes.
Great. See you then. And we're back. What did you think, Tanner?
I did not watch it.
So Richard Marquand is hired. The writing process is underway. Lawrence Kasdan joins the movie. He ends up being a very frequent collaborator of Lucas and Spielberg and that jazz. They also hire Howard Kazazian to produce the movie. We didn't really get into the producer side of things in the last couple episodes because the last two episodes as in Star Wars, were produced by Gary Kurtz, and we didn't really get into the Gary Kurtz drama, but he was, despite the movie being very successful, he was pretty much the fall guy for the difficulties they had while filming. He's pretty much to blame for the movie going over budget and all that stuff and running long in production. And they say, all right, we've made it through, not because of Gary, so let's get rid of Gary.
Despite Gary and his many flaws, this movie is finished. Could you imagine the press junket if they were all like touring and they're like, so what was the hardest part of the, was it the harsh location shoots? Was it the grueling hours? Carrie Fisher, was it your addiction to Quaaludes? And everyone was like, no, it was actually Kurtz. He ruined everything for all of us. He's just awful.
Yeah, you ruined it. In fact, I was reading on our research for Empire and A New Hope, but they were almost actually going to replace him mid-production with Kazazian, but he convinced them to keep him on or whatever. So it's funny that after they wrapped, they were like, no, you're gone for real now. This is overdue. Okay, so anyway, now we have Lawrence Kasdan writing with Lucas. The original title of the movie was Return of the Jedi, but it actually got changed again to Revenge of the Jedi in the middle of production. Did you know that?
No, but I also don't love that. Yeah, I'm glad it went back.
That was the input given by Kasdan and Kazazian. They thought revenge was a more marketable word, a sexier word, if you will. And Lucas didn't like that change, but from their input, he's like, all right, well, I guess we'll go with revenge. Obviously, that didn't stick around forever back when this movie was in production back in the early 80s. It does actually have a lot of ripple effects because they were also filming the second Star Trek movie, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, which comes out in 82, a year before Return of the Jedi. But in anticipation of that movie being called Revenge of the Jedi, they actually changed the name of Star Trek II from Revenge of Khan to Wrath of Khan.
What? Oh, could you imagine being those poor people? We're like, oh my God, oh, we gotta panic. Oh, they took Revenge, and then they change it, and then they change it back to Return.
They're like, well, shit, we could have had this whole time.
Because I think Wrath of Khan sounds more like iconic anyway. And also, what is with all these revenges? Everyone's like, it's a sexier word. Was anybody anywhere thinking that 80s sci-fi was sexy? The answer is no.
I mean, like everyone got their revenge in the 80s. Michael Myers had his revenge in the 80s. I think Jafar got his revenge eventually, right?
Oh, well, that's Return of Jafar.
It's not Revenge of Jafar?
No, it's Return, and that was 94.
Okay, I'm wrong. But again, yes, revenge, it's a word that, was sexy. It's a word that would come back eventually in this franchise, as I'm sure a lot of people would know. For now, they had it as Return, they changed it to Revenge, and they go into production as Revenge. So we'll get into them changing it back, but for now, we're going to just stick with it with pre-production. In the original writing of the script for Return of the Jedi, we're still talking about Return of the Jedi, by the way, not Revenge, but in the original script, they did not have Han Solo.
At all?
Which is weird because, not at all, because they weren't even sure Harrison Ford was going to return. That's why, when they signed contracts for Empire, Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill signed multiple contracts, movie deals. Harrison Ford only signs one. So yeah, and Harrison Ford also has a huge success in the year after Empire with Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's got his own, franchise where he's the lead actor. So they weren't really sure if Harrison Ford was even going to come back. I mean, he had voiced his his reluctance to be in any of these movies, but he just, knowing Harrison Ford, they're like, is he going to come back now? Is he too good for us?
Could you imagine if he had just been frozen in carbonite and that was the end?
Well, that's why he was frozen in carbonite in that movie, because they weren't really sure if he was going to come back anyway.
Yeah, but to just leave the story there.
And Han's taken away to the bounty hunters, and he's gone. That's it. He's gone. No resolution on him and Leia. They just love each other, and he's frozen forever. Obviously, it didn't happen that way, but that's an interesting thing to note. The producer of New Hope and Empire, Gary Kurtz, as we mentioned just a minute ago, said I found a quote that he said he actually had Han actually died in the original script. I don't know how he got that information if he wasn't working on the movie, but I take that with a grain of salt, I guess. Gary clinging to his one claim to fame, I guess, at the time. Anyway, so he says that Han dies in the early script. Harrison Ford and Lawrence Kasdan wanted him to die,
which is just so. I mean, yeah, give somebody like the weight of a main character death is like effective, but I feel like from day 2 of shooting, he's like, can we just kill this guy?
Just get rid of him. So yeah, apparently it was reported Lawrence Kasdan wanted him to die. In that same little article I found, Gary Kurtz made a hint that George Lucas vetoed that idea of Han dying, again, still to preserve the merchandising appeal of the character.
Mm.
Yeah, very strange. The one guy making all this money off of merchandising decides, nah, I want to make more money off merchandising, so you don't get to die.
No, we can't sell Millennium Falcon toys without the captain. Girls everywhere are buying boots and vests. That sale will tank.
Yeah, so supposedly Han's not death was not driven by creative decisions, but monetary ones. So there you go. Hope that's a comforting thought. Also, some differences in the early versions of the script. The Rebel Alliance, after their final battle with the Empire, was going to be entirely depleted and gone. It was going to end up with Leia as this new queen of the New Republic or whatever. That whatever follows the Empire, and it was going to end with Luke as this like kind of vagabond hero, you know, this man with no name as this Jedi who wanders the galaxy helping people. So yeah, totally different ending.
So the Rebel Force, there's like 6 of them left. Leia's queen of a nobody because nobody's alive. And Luke's just like a wandering hobo. Good. Oh, and Han's dead. What a great ending.
Well, okay, I'm going to defend this a little bit because I mean, if you're imagining this as the final chapter in your saga and you want to end these characters with what they're going to be doing down the line outside of Star Wars, so to speak, I mean, having Leia queen and Luke, you know, a traveling hero, I don't mind that. I can see that.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. And Leia as like Queen of the Republic, sure. I'm down with that. The rebels being like decimated, does anybody really care? I mean, they got what they wanted. They're done. Bye. Han dying though, not a fan.
But again, they go deeper with they go with the happier ending, just the kind of party ending of the movie. Tanner, can you guess why they didn't want to go with that original ending?
Money, appeal to children, the Disney-fication of it all.
Yes, money. Yeah, so apparently this was also a merchandising ploy or motivation that they thought that if the movie ended with these characters entirely changing their identities, or at least as far as the aesthetics of them are concerned, they thought that they wouldn't keep buying these, you know, Luke as a Jedi toys or Leia with a blaster or whatever.
Oh, you know, I'll just sacrifice my artistic vision for the buck.
Pretty much. That's pretty much all of what Star Wars has always been. Also, a different scenario, the script, there was no Yoda in the original version of the script, even though he had already been established in Empire. They weren't going to include him. Richard Marquand wanted him in the movie, and then he was eventually included only because George Lucas, he'd done some research on people's reaction to Empire, to how, you know, kids would process Empire and the twist in Empire. And he came to the conclusion that they wouldn't believe what Darth Vader says about being Luke's father if someone of reputation or repute, like Yoda, doesn't confirm it. So that's literally the only reason why he's in the movie.
Interesting.
He's just there to say, yep, he's your father and I'm dead. Interestingly, even the voice of Darth Vader, James Earl Jones, didn't believe the twist when he heard it. When he was originally doing it, he was like, "There's no way, this guy's full of shit. He's not his father."
And they just give James Earl. They're like, "Okay, James, these are your lines. Go ahead and practice them a couple times." And he's just like, "I ain't saying this. What?"
So yeah, we're just going to do a little bit of cleanup for this movie just to put people out of their questioning and say, no, it's real. We're not just messing with you. He's his father. Get over it. One of the differences from the original scripts, they weren't going to be Ewoks, the tiny little teddy bears that we see on Endor in the second and third acts of this movie. Were going to be Wookiees, actually, like Chewbacca. I couldn't find anything on why that was done, like why that change was made. I'm guessing to appeal to kids by having just tinier versions of Chewbacca, basically.
How do we make these cuter?
Smaller, yeah. The other difference in the ending would have been in the original script, the resurrection of Obi-Wan. Yoda and Anakin Skywalker through some, I guess, Force magic. I don't know. As opposed to the Force ghost that we get at the end of the movie.
Oh God, we can go into that. Yeah, we've talked about the remastered editions having their touch ups, and there is one part of this movie that I hate more than the Anakin Force Ghost, but it's not for me.
Yeah, it's weird to me too, but it's better than what we could have gotten, I think. The script was finished really late into production and really late into pre-production on this movie. They started filming in, I think, in 1982 January, but they were still writing it for a lot of the time before that. So a lot of the concept artists kind of just without having an actual script had to go off of these ideas of scenes versus having the actual scenes in mind. They did a little bit of overlap in terms of, I guess you could say, rush to production a little bit because the script was a little bit behind the schedule. But they finished it and they started to assemble the pieces. Of course, we're going to go into casting now. Mark Hamill, of course, coming back as the hero Luke Skywalker, as he had signed on for multiple movies for the last one. A little bit of a tidbit I liked about Mark Hamill on this movie was that while making it, he suggested to George Lucas that Luke Skywalker don Vader's helmet at the very end of the movie. And Lucas was like, no, none of that is happening.
No.
Yeah, that's why you're not a writer, Mark. Sorry.
Because he wanted to be left as like, ooh, Luke's the bad guy now.
I don't know. I guess, yeah, like it's very Tommy Jarvis at the end of Friday the 13th movies where it's like, oh, now he's crazy now and he's Jason Voorhees, so watch out.
Oh, no. That's always like the worst. No, and that's always, and even when they leave it like ambiguous or whatever, it never works for me. It's like the Halloween when Laurie's granddaughter is holding the knife at the end, or in Scream 6 when she drops the mask in the road, but you're like, oh, is she gonna take it? Like I hate those.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm glad they didn't do it here. I don't know if that's exactly what they were going to do, but if that's exactly what Hamill was suggesting, I don't need that in my life, thanks.
Even if he's not suggesting that, for him to be like the villain, then it's just like cheeseball-y. Because then it's just Luke like putting it on to be like, oh, look at this. And I no.
He's like, this is what you see in here? It's like putting on someone else's glasses, like, oh, this is what you see? Oh, geez, this is crazy. So, of course, the Holy Trinity also coming back. You got Harrison Ford, as we mentioned, as Han Solo back in this movie, resurrected from the carbonite. And then Carrie Fisher's also back as Princess Leia. Pretty much all the trivia you find on Carrie Fisher in this movie, and no surprise, it has to do with her little bikini that she wears.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to talk about, I think Return of the Jedi, that's probably the most iconic part of this whole movie, for better or for worse.
Interestingly, the whole thing came about when Carrie Fisher was saying how in the original two movies, they didn't want to portray Leia as this kind of stereotypical, buxom female figure, like, damsel in distress kind of thing. But she commented on it saying, yeah, but you can barely tell I'm a woman by my clothes.
I love how for so many reasons too, because Leia is such a like feminist icon, and it's like, we're not going to objectify women. And then Carrie's like, well, you could objectify me like a little bit. And then we're like, Leia's brains and brawn, she's not just beauty. And she's like, but I don't like that beauty's third. So can I just be like hot in this one?
It's interesting that they took that comment and then they went like entirely the other direction with it.
Well, yeah, I mean, like A New Hope, her dress is like a bed sheet with a turtleneck collar, and so I get that where she's like, okay, really, I get this gunny sack as my costume. And then the second one, what does she wear besides her Swiss milkmaid hairstyle? Oh, it's just like pants and the vest because she's running around and she's a little more actiony, and then she's on Hoth and it's cold, so she's a little more bundled in Empire. And then so like I get her point of it too, because she's like, hey, I'm also in my prime. And then they're like, okay, great, you get to wear this cold metal bikini for 19 hours. And she's like, no, maybe not that far.
It's still weird to this movie. It was like it's really kid-centric, I mean, at least relatively speaking than the last two. But then you have Princess Leia as this like centerfold like babe. I don't know what I was thinking when I watched this when I was a kid, but I can only imagine it being like, oh, what? I mean, there's no like, it's no coincidence that this movie was like the sexual impetus for a lot of kids' sexual awakenings at the time.
Oh, for sure. And like, look at like the pop culture like moment that it is. And because then I always just think of the episode of Friends in season 3 where Ross has the Princess Leia fantasy with Rachel, and then Rachel's asking Phoebe about it, and she's like, is this is this kind of weird? And Phoebe's like, oh, Princess Leia in the gold bikini? No, that was every guy our age's dream. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, my dad had that poster.
I can't say it was my dream per se, but I can see that. She was the, sex symbol of pop culture for a while because of that.
Good for her.
Getting back to the rest of the cast, we've got Billy D. Williams coming back as Lando Calrissian, Anthony Daniels as C-3PO, Peter Mayhew as Chewbacca, Kenny Baker as R2-D2, and then we get into a little bit of the new characters. We get the addition of Ian McDiarmid as the Emperor. Last time we talked a little bit about the Emperor and The Empire Strikes Back being a little bit different in that movie, having a little bit of makeup prosthetics on it, so you can't really tell who it is. But this is the first time they really cast a real actor to be this role. The original actor cast was actually Alan Webb, but he passed away in 1982, so he was unfortunately not able to fulfill that. Another almost casting was Ben Kingsley, who just won the Oscar for Gandhi, I think in 82. He can pull that off, I guess. I haven't seen Gandhi, but
I mean, but I think he can be like menacing enough.
Yeah, I mean, he's played villains before plenty of times. Then obviously it went to Ian McDiarmid. McDiarmid was kind of getting into it with the expectation that he was going to be dubbed over because, of Darth Vader being dubbed over with David Prowse being replaced by James Earl Jones. He figured, okay, well, I'm just going to be the look, the physicality of the Emperor, and then they're going to find somebody to give me a new voice. So he ends up going and doing his own voice for the role, and he kind of takes it in this new direction. He basically, they gave him, I think, like stage directions as to how to act, but he kind of developed the whole, the whole raspy voice, and Jesus. And because he does that, he actually, he wins them over. And that's why they ended up not dubbing him over, because they liked him so much with that voice. So yeah, good for you, McDiarmid. And he was actually pretty young because he does, of course, the prequels. And so they didn't want to cast an older actor who probably, at the time would fit the part. I see he was born in 44, so the movie would come out in 83. He wasn't even 40 yet, but he gets this role as the Emperor, this really old dude, and a lot of makeup, of course, and that kind of works out for him because, he gets to play this role forever.
So Ian McDiarmid was originally the Emperor, like that's him because I feel like I'd always heard this rumor that he came back and did like the Emperor stuff after the prequels, and that the original Emperor was like somebody's wife, like the director's wife or somebody's wife in like costume, and then in the original cut before the like DVDs, like the remaster ones, it was just like they put like these weird cat eyes over her, so you couldn't really tell that it was like a woman.
We went over this in the last episode.
Oops, never mind. We'll just cut this out, listeners.
No, I'm not cutting that, Tanner. Totally forgot what we talked about. And I'm guessing you also haven't gotten that far in the editing room yet.
I heard this really old rumor, and it's like, no, we actually just talked about it last week, but okay.
Okay, and then next, also on the dark side, we have coming back is David Prowse, who played Vader in the suit in the last two movies, and of course, James Earl Jones as Darth Vader, as the voice of Darth Vader. But in this one, they had a little bit of a different task because, of course, at the end of this movie, we see Vader's real face at the very end when he unmasks himself. And I want to do a little bit of cleanup on the first episode because, Tanner, I don't know if you knew this, if you found this out later, but we had a little bit of a factual error on the first one. You'd asked me if David Prowse was the guy that we see in this movie unmasked, and that was not part of our research, so we kind of were off the cuff saying, I don't know, yeah, sure, maybe. Now I can now confirm that it was not David Prowse at the end of this movie unmasked. It was not his face that we see.
See, and I was so like, oh, good for David Prowse, because in the first movie, with Empire, he's like, I don't know if I want to come back. I feel like I didn't really get credited properly, and I'm just like under a suit the whole time. And I'm like, no, because in the third one, you get unmasked, and it's like all worth it. And I'm like, oh, just kidding, it's not you.
Nope, it's still not me. It is an actor called Sebastian Shaw, who was a theater actor.
How kind of like disappointing when they're like, okay, David, so in this last movie, Vader's gonna get killed, but before he does, you're gonna have to like take your helmet off and have this nice moment reuniting with your son, and they're gonna try to save you. And he's like, oh, yay. And they're like, but we've cast somebody else for that.
Yeah, so they cast Sebastian Shaw for this, and I have to always, whenever I hear that name, Sebastian Shaw, I just think of Kevin Bacon's character from X-Men First Class.
Oh, yes.
Interestingly, though, and spoilers for First Class, both actors' characters die very shortly after a helmet removal.
Oh, yep, true.
A little fun fact, although different circumstances, and one of them is definitely less fun than the other.
Kevin Bacon's is a little more gruesome, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, a little fun fact there. Originally, though, they were going to cast a famous actor because Richard Marquand, the director, wanted one to be Vader. A couple of names they threw around were Laurence Olivier, who, of course, did Hamlet back in the day, and John Gielgud, who I know from the first Arthur movie. But Lucas vetoed that idea of casting a big face name because it would be distracting. Just be all of a sudden you open the mask and it's freaking Laurence Olivier. Which, yeah, good call. I think, yeah, if you have a really, like, can you imagine if like they just unmasked him and it was like Marlon Brando all of a sudden for like 30 seconds and he's dead? You'd be like, wait, what? He was Marlon Brando the whole time?
I wish it was just somebody who was like too iconic. Like it's just like De Niro.
De Niro shows up for no reason. Luke, you were right about me. I'm your father. Dies. Yeah. So a little weird. I mean, I don't know why they couldn't have. I mean, maybe Prowse still wasn't the right choice to deliver those lines at the very end, but it probably wouldn't have been distracting to see his face.
No. Yeah, I feel a little bad for him.
So anyway, yeah, we also in this movie get back Frank Oz as Yoda, as we were mentioned, because kids are too stupid. And then we also get Alec Guinness coming back as Obi-Wan Kenobi to shoot just one day of filming yet again, just cashing a paycheck.
I'm like, and I'm sure he's still got 3% of gross profits or whatever ridiculous salary he got for 12 minutes of work.
Right. Yeah, he's definitely coasting at this point. And then the last big role in this movie, I mean, I guess you wouldn't call it a big, well, I probably shouldn't say big at all, is the Ewoks.
Ooh.
But anyway, but the last big actor that we know now joining this movie is Warwick Davis, who we know now from things like, oh my God, why am I blanking on Willow? Willow, yes.
Bro, Willow, Harry Potter.
Okay, Harry Potter, yes. Plenty of stuff. Back then, I actually didn't know this about this movie, is that he was only 11 years old filming this.
What?
Yeah, apparently they wanted Kenny Baker who plays R2-D2 to just play play Wicket, the main Ewok that Leia befriends. But Kenny Baker got sick with food poisoning apparently when they were about to film. And instead of waiting for him, I guess, they just got somebody else small enough to be in the costume, which was Warwick Davis at 11 years old at the time.
What? And then look at that. Like, launched the career of Warwick Davis because craft services couldn't put away the fish in a timely manner.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes, we love you, Warwick Davis. We're so glad you got to join this movie.
And we love you, craft services, for fucking up.
Yeah, don't try the cod. But Baker does play Ewoks anyway. He plays one named Paplu. I couldn't tell you which one that is, but he is there apparently. Let me look it up. Paplu, Return of the Jedi. Okay, so he's the brown one with the staff.
Oh, okay.
Which is, I'm being facetious. That's like all of them.
Yeah, I'm like, are any of them not brown? There's like a white one or
there's like one with black and like and the variations, but yeah, okay. I couldn't tell you if I was watching the movie which one he was. But anyway, so still gets to play an Ewok. And then there's a character that isn't really well known, but this was a really interesting detail that I had to bring up. Moff Jerjerrod. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Basically, the guy in command, the Empire. Speaking of Harry Potter, Alan Rickman auditioned for that role.
What? I would love anything that Alan Rickman's in. I do love anything that Alan Rickman's in.
That'd be great. I mean, he actually, I don't think he does a movie until Die Hard, which is like 5 years later. So this would have been his first film role if he got it.
Well, I'm sad that we didn't get that. Is that a character that even shows up in the movie, or did they just scrap that whole character?
No, he's in the movie. It's let's see. The actual actor's name is Michael Pennington.
Oh, well, sorry, Michael Pennington, that I don't love your work as much as Alan Rickman.
Can you imagine just prime the Death Star cannon, fire on the Rebel fleet?
Alan Rickman. This is Alan Rickman.
It would have been fun to rewatch this movie and then be like, whoa, shit, Alan Rickman? Just for, like, randomly. I love it when that happens. You're watching an old movie and you see like a pre-fame actor in a small role. It's the best.
Yes.
So now we got into casting. So we've done casting. Let's go into filming. This movie starts filming in January of '82. It lasts through May of '82. And Kazajian, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize. He also wanted to give Industrial Light and Magic the most possible time to work on the visual effects, which was, an issue that we talked about the last couple times, that they were really scrambling to do all the post stuff. So this new producer comes in and is like, hey, we can't do this again. We got lucky the first 2 times. We're doing this on schedule. We're making sure that you guys have enough time to work on your shit. Refreshing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The budget for this one was $32 million, 32.5. In today's money, that's $110 million, which, I mean, is less than I would have thought, because, nowadays, if a movie like this gets made, it gets made for like $200 million at least.
Yeah, that seems low.
So a very responsible budget for this movie still. The working title for this movie was Blue Harvest, which I alluded to in the first episode. Now when I think of that title, I think of the Family Guy episode that parodies the original movie. Yeah. But they had to title it that because, or at least on production, because they had to hide the fact that they were making the 3rd Star Wars movie. So like when people heard like, oh, they're filming this movie down the way, they're like, what is it? Oh, it's just Blue Harvest, some horror movie, and you don't want to worry about it.
Although it's an intriguing enough title that I wish that there was like a Blue Harvest movie, because I'm like, give me like a children. Give me. I'm like, oh, Children of the Corn.
You imagine when you hear Blue Harvest, you think Children of the Corn?
Yeah, but then I think, like, literally as I'm saying that, I'm like, no, because Blue Harvest is probably where they're like harvesting people from like the planet, and I don't know, who knows.
So it's like Soylent Green.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I look forward to your first draft of Blue Harvest, Tanner. The new making
right
into a real
on that.
movie. Get right on it. In the first couple episodes, we talked about how A New Hope and Empire led their production with the hardest part of filming. They started in Tunisia on the first movie, big rainstorm that happened. They go to Norway in the second movie, big snowstorm that happens. This time they say, you know what? We're going to start off with the easy stuff. We're going to the studio for this right off the bat. So they go to Elstree Studio again in England for 78 days, just to get all the interior stuff, I assume, done. They use all the stages, and you have to worry about, The Shining burning down production again. The first scene, interestingly, that they shot at the studio was of a sandstorm sequence on Tatooine, but that was actually not included in the movie. You can find images of it online. I just Googled it right now. It would have been after they left the Jabba's palace. So they defeat Jabba and they escape the planet through a sandstorm, but I guess it was considered not, vital to the story, or it would have, they couldn't follow the excitement of, killing Jabba. So they decided to get rid of it. Not really necessary.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I get it. So they also shoot a lot of the Jabba's palace scenes in this studio. A little fun fact I found about the Rancor, which the Rancor scene was also one of my favorites when I was a kid, when Luke goes down into the dungeon pit and has to fight the giant creature there. They were originally going to have it be a person in a suit, a la the original Godzilla movie, but they couldn't get to work. So now we have the puppet version instead.
I think the puppet's probably for the best.
Yeah, can you imagine like just a guy going, I'm a monster?
Yeah, I'm like, that would just feel really, yeah. It's a no for me, dog.
But what they say, like, difficulty is the mother of creativity, or what is it? Like adversity, something like that. So they made it work, and they got the good version. So then they go from there. They go after they do all the studio stuff, all the easy stuff. They go back to the desert to do the exterior Tatooine sequences. They go to the Yuma Desert in Arizona for a couple weeks to film that. I think in the first one we were talking about Tatooine in A New Hope, they filmed obviously Tunisia, but then they also filmed in Death Valley a little bit. But here they go to Arizona for these desert sequences. I guess to get those like kind of more rolling, sand dunes or whatever.
Yeah.
So they get that stuff, much easier shoot. Then it's up to Northern California in Grizzly Creek, Redwood State Park to shoot all the Endor stuff. At least all the woodsy stuff that you can't fake on a soundstage.
I love that when they were like, I want to know what that conversation was like in the writing room when they're like, okay, we need a new rebel planet. We don't want to have to go all over the world. We don't want these like harsh weather conditions to ruin the shoot. So like, where are we going to pick? And they're just like, you can rent Grizzly Creek State Park for $12 a day. They're like, okay, done.
Yeah, George is like, it's a 2-hour drive from my house. Like, I know a good burger joint on the way. Like, it's just go there. This was actually, so this is a little bit of a Mandela effect thing for me right now, because when I was a kid, I grew up in Marin County, and we went into this last episode with all the Lucas stuff going on in Marin County. And I grew up like with the knowledge that Endor was filmed in Marin County at Muir Woods National Park, which I went to when I was a kid. And I was like, oh, this is where Star Wars was filmed. And then I did the research for this movie, and they're like, no. It was like northern California. Like you've never been there, Tim.
You know what the good part is that it's the woods. So you can just tell people you've been there and it probably looks the same.
I mean, yeah, they have the same kind of trees, I guess, but it was a little bit underwhelming for me to learn that. I don't know. I guess I got the wrong information, and I've held on to that for like 30 plus years. Anyway, so no, I have not been to Endor apparently, even though, if anyone, I told this to anyone who is listening to this right now, I apologize for lying to you, I guess, back in the day. Anyway, so those are the two main locations they film at in Arizona and Northern California. The last part they do film, though, is for the final scene for Vader's funeral, I guess you could say, where they roast his helmet on the fire and there are Force ghosts. They didn't film that in the forest. They actually just filmed that at Skywalker Ranch.
Really?
So in Lucas's backyard, they're like, we'll get Mark and Harrison and Carrie and get some guys in suits dancing around, and we'll just have a bonfire. And you can't really tell, it looks the same.
Yeah.
So that was the last little bit of shooting. So this is kind of like one of these kind of conspiracy theory things, like of who really shot this movie, or who really directed this movie, rather, because a lot of people like to say like basically George Lucas ghost directed Return of the Jedi. He was on set a lot during filming because Richard Marquand was inexperienced with special effects work, and because of Lucas's presence, it's been long said that he pretty much directed Return of the Jedi.
So he was just like a backseat driver the whole time?
That's what a lot of people have reported on. It's obviously not official, but yeah, people have basically said that, he's the creator of Star Wars. He was there the whole time. He was giving his input. You might as well just say he directed the movie. There's a little funny, there's a little funny quote from Marquand before he passed away. He said, directing Star Wars with Lucas nearby, he said, quote, was like trying to direct King Lear with Shakespeare in the next room.
Oh, so a total backseat driver.
Which, yeah, I understand now. Can you imagine if the guy who created the biggest pop culture thing of the century was like, all right, here you go, finish my trilogy, and I'm gonna watch you do it. Be kind of nerve-wracking.
Because not only is it like big shoes to fill, but then you have the guy just standing behind you the whole time, like, is that really what you're gonna do? Oh, that's an interesting choice. It's like, okay.
That's like, being entering a menage a trois in a marriage, and it's like, are you sure I can do this with your wife? And the guy's like, no, it's cool. We're cool with it. Just go ahead. Are you sure this is okay? Yes, just do it.
Too bad we didn't have Emily Bronte on set with Emerald Fennell for Wuthering Heights.
Yes, they couldn't get Emily Bronte, unfortunately, dead for many, many years, over a century. But anyway, so Aside from that, though, Richard Marquand went through a lot of friction on this production shoot, not just because of Lucas. He was, in fact, Marquand was not very popular while directing this movie. And maybe that had to do with the fact that they would have preferred if Lucas had just been the real director, but he was not very well liked.
See, you make fun of me, Tim, for making fun of people with silly names, but maybe it was the name. Maybe it's because his last name was Marquand, and people are like, we can't take this guy seriously. Get this fucking clown off the stage.
Oh man, you're talking about like we gotta like exhume his body and like this poor man has been dead for 40 years. Like leave him alone, Tanner.
But I've only known about him for 40 minutes. So...
Well, I haven't gotten that confirmation that they just didn't like his name. But what I did get confirmation on was that he was not very well liked. In fact, Anthony Daniels, who played C-3PO, hated working with him, and in fact would end up refusing to record his lines for Marquand, and he ended up just recording them with George Lucas later on. So he's he was like, no, you're my director. You'll always be my director. I'm not working with this hack. So anyway, yeah, and Carrie Fisher also was not a fan of Marquand. In fact, I found a thing where she said that he made her cry after yelling at her a bunch.
Oh.
Yeah.
He took my cocaine away.
Oh, it's so glad that she's not around to sue us.
It's all written in a memoir, Tim. It's public domain.
Sure. Whatever. We're already playing fast and loose with public domain shit. We might as well just keep going. Anyway, yeah. So Fisher didn't like him. Hamill also didn't like him. So yeah, it's been speculated by people that because of a lot of this stuff that Lucas, and the assistant director also just took over a lot of filming for Marquand for a lot of those reasons. So yeah, he was set up to fail to begin with, but apparently he also failed on his own accord. So, what are you gonna do? So yeah, filming wraps in May. Post-production, Lucas creates THX, which we went into in the first episode.
Ugh, childhood trauma.
Roll that clip. Yeah, awful, terrible, kill with fire. But anyway, to get into the history of THX, when they were screening this movie to test it out in theaters, George Lucas was like, your audio freaking sucks, theaters. Like, what are you doing? So he creates THX just to make this movie sound better in the theaters. And, it's like, here you go. I made this for you. I made your system better. You're welcome. And, they were like, all right, thanks.
Okay, cool. I guess we'll stop using our phonographs then.
Yeah, and he required them to use his system, his sound system going forward, THX, because he's like, I am not making another movie if you guys are gonna have crappy audio, so you're gonna have to have this if you want to play my movies. So yeah, and then in post-production we also have, of course, ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, doing the special effects work. We talked about how they wanted to give them ample time to get it all done. Still wasn't quite enough, apparently. Apparently these guys were ran to the ground in terms of their work output. They had to work apparently 20 hours a day, 6 days a week, just to stay on schedule. And it all amounted to about 900 special effects shot for the whole movie.
Oh, which that's up another what, like 300 from the previous one?
Yeah, I was looking for that actually. I couldn't quite find it, but let's see. I can look it up now. Empire Strikes.
I feel like the first one was like 300 shots, and then Empire was like 600 shots, and then this one's 9 or
let's see. Wikipedia says Empire was 600, so that's up like a third, or up half, I think, actually. And then
oh my gosh, it's like I just studied that a week ago.
And then New Hope was 365. So yeah, it like doubles each time basically. Yeah, so those poor people, but they got it done, and the movie looks great, so whatever. John Williams, of course, coming back to score this movie again with the London Symphony Orchestra. A little fun fact I found during my research is that Thomas Newman was part of that orchestra. Thomas Newman being one of the biggest composers today for movies.
Really?
Yeah, and he's part of the whole Newman family, so Randy Newman is his cousin, I want to say. Yeah, cousin.
It all just comes back to Toy Story.
Okay, Tanner.
Okay, you need to
Toy
let
Story
that
in the
go.
brain. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, they score that. And then it wasn't, so we talked a little bit about how in early production this movie was called Revenge of the Jedi. It wasn't actually changed until December of 82, after filming had been done for like 7 months and the movie was due in 5 months. Lucas finally says, you know what? No, you guys are wrong. A Jedi would not seek revenge. It's not really appropriately thematically. So we're going back to Return.
He just like snuck into the final draft room and erased Revenge and rewrote over the top of it.
Well, no, he actually came in. He did it later than that because they had distributed like promotional posters for Revenge of the Jedi. So there was already like physical print media that had Revenge on it, and they had to recall all of them. Yeah.
See, they probably. Oh, I wonder what those are worth now.
Well, I was just gonna say. So, back in the day, they actually the ones that they did keep, the studio ended up selling them to fan club members for $9.50 back in the day.
What?
Yeah. Today, though, I wonder how. Yeah, let's look that up. Let's see. Revenge of the Jedi poster price.
Now you can sell them for like $9,000.
According to Google AI, sorry, I'm using AI, it can range from $1,500 to $3,500, depending on the condition.
Okay.
That's that's a lot of money.
Yeah, to get one for $9.
And now you got to pay over $1,000. So yeah, definitely a very coveted piece of fan memorabilia from this movie. The original cut of the movie, George Lucas did not like in Return of the Jedi. He thought it was terrible, basically. And then he had to go back and redo it.
Which is shocking because he was backseat driving for most of it.
Yeah.
Or did he just not like it because he thought that like the edited cut was bad?
He thought the edited cut was bad because he thought that it didn't flow like a Star Wars movie.
So he had to take control over the backseat directing and then the backseat editing as well.
Yeah, he's basically like, no, I can't make this movie. No, you do it. Okay, well, let me just show you this.
I can't do this. It's too stressful and too detrimental on my health, but I'm gonna have to redo everything you do.
So anyway, yeah, Lucas obviously involved through the end. But now we've talked about the conception and the birth of this movie. Let's get into our thoughts on it. Tanner, let's say we're back in. Well, I would say we're back in 1983, but I guess we can't because we can't see that version anymore. But we've watched the movie. Let's talk about our opinions of it. We kind of talked a little bit about our original feelings on the movie. I guess I'll go first, since I think I'm more positive than I am on this movie than you are. Is that right?
Sure.
Like the last couple movies, we were a little bit in lockstep in terms of our, adoration for them. But we talked a little bit about our feelings for this movie. But I feel like this is going to be the first one we disagree a little bit more on.
I mean, go ahead.
Okay. I'll go ahead. So yeah, I went into this, I went into this earlier saying how I was, this was my favorite Star Wars movie as a kid. Now though, watching it again, I still like it. I mean, I think it's still a good movie, but it's definitely not as good as the first two. And, it's not the trilogy capper that I think it deserved,
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Like, it's kind of like, I think of it like, The Godfather Part 3, where you have like these first two really good movies and you have this, ending,
Yeah, it's definitely the Sofia Coppola of the trilogy.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but it's not quite as iconic. And okay, let's just start with the story, because when I was watching this as a kid, my favorite scenes were the Jabba stuff. So basically the first 35 minutes, because this movie doesn't continue. The movie doesn't complete the Jabba subplot until 35 minutes into the movie and get back into the rest. And I was watching it again and I was kind of like, man, this first act of this movie is just kind of playing cleanup for the last one,
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's why, because they didn't know completely like what they were doing and they didn't know if they were going to get Harrison Ford back. So now they're like, oh, well, we left these loose ends. We have to tie those up first.
That's a good point. Yeah. I think that was probably a lot of what played into it.
Yeah. But I agree. I mean, I think the first like third of this movie is probably my favorite part.
Yeah, but also it's really fun. Like I love the Rancor scene, and I like the grossness of Jabba's palace, and I like the battle on the skiff or whatever you call it on the sand dune in front of the Sarlacc pit, but it kind of has nothing to do with the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Like it's just there to set up Han coming back and dealing with all the bounty hunters. And they have like a couple scenes here and there of Vader, talking through stuff with Empire guys. And I'm like, wow, they really just include these Vader scenes so that we wouldn't forget that he exists.
As we're rescuing these guys, remember there's still a universal conflict.
We'll get to it. They're still out there. They're waiting. And I'm like, yeah, so am I. Like, get back to the story.
We're gonna get back to the real threat here, but first we need Carrie Fisher in this gold bikini.
Yeah.
Which you know what?
So yeah, go ahead.
No, keep on.
No. You go.
No, Tim, I was just going to say it grossly again. Thank God for them for keeping that in there.
You know what really messed me up as a kid is the scene right after Luke kills the Rancor. He drops the door on him, the Rancor dies, and they bring in the Rancor trainer or whatever, and the dude cries. And I was like, oh, that makes me sad now for the poor Rancor. He's like, my pet is dead. And the guy like comforts him, puts an arm around his shoulder. And it made me really sad as a kid, that moment. Anyway, that's a little bit of my trauma from watching this movie as a kid.
Can we talk about the real trauma of that scene?
Which was?
The real trauma of the Jabba's palace scene is the added in lounge singer effect.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes.
Tim, I have never been so angry at a part of a film in my life than I am at when you get to Jabba's palace and like what you're talking about, like this major crime lord, he does disgusting things, he's enslaving people, and like all of the seriousness of that is taken away by George Lucas feeling the need to add in the frog lady from Thumbelina screaming into a microphone with poor CGI, and then her like backwoods hairy Bigfoot roly-poly band guy who's just like, ooh, like it makes me so mad, and I have to fast forward it every time. I was just like, what is this shit? Like, takes away all the ominous like feeling of that scene.
Yeah, and apparently they actually had a different musical number in the original version, and then the music that we hear in this one in the special edition, they redid all of it.
I don't need any music. It's awful. I don't need any musical number there. Take it out. The only musical number that should be in Star Wars is the Cantina singers in the first one. Like,
yeah, it's awful. You're right. But then the movie kind of picks up a little bit for me when they finally get off Jabba's palace. At least on this rewatch, it picks up for me. And then they go, we get Luke going back to Dagobah to see Yoda, and Yoda dies, which I guess it's kind of a necessary addition. I mean, beyond just like kids won't believe Darth Vader, but you also have to get Obi-Wan to come in there and be like, so bro, you said Vader killed my father, and he was like, I mean, he kind of did. Like, explain that whole lie.
He killed the spirit of your father. It's like, oh, all right, well.
Didn't you get that? I thought that was implied. Luke's like, no, you're a liar. You're a fucking liar. What are you talking about?
No, that was just a straight up lie. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, Lucas obviously he kind of writes these movies as he goes along. So when they filmed that in the first movie, that explanation scene of Luke's father, it wasn't canon back then in Lucas's mind that Vader was his father. So it's just like he has to keep going back and like fixing what he changed,
Which is strange, because if we've learned nothing from Pitch Perfect, it's that Vader is literally German for father. So if you take a character from your first film and you're going to name him Darth Father, there's no correlation with that in your mind?
Forgot about that.
Yeah. Thank you for that plot hole, Anna Kendrick.
So everybody in Germany was just like, he's the dad? Watching this movie?
Yeah. The Empire reveal was shocking to nobody in Germany.
Well, I'm sure that they had a lot of reasons not to watch these movies because, World War II parallels. But
ooh, yeah.
But anyway, yeah. But okay, well, while we're talking about like, I don't know if it's a retcon per se, but like as long as we're talking about retroactive, storytelling, we have to talk about, Leia being Luke's sister.
Well, which part of it? That we don't like it or that we do like it?
Well, I mean, just the fact that like it wasn't really even a consideration in the first two movies because she kisses him all the time in the first two movies.
Well, I mean, okay, it was one kiss.
She kisses him on the cheek in their Death Star rescue, and then she kisses him full on the mouth for several seconds in front of everyone in Empire.
That was a tool of jealousy.
Okay, but in this movie, she says when Luke tells her that she's his sister, she says, "I know. I think I always knew." And I'm like, "No,
Oh,
bitch,
yeah,
you did
okay.
not."
That line doesn't work great.
Were you thinking of him as your brother when you're laying a fat one on him?
Yeah, okay. So that one doesn't work well. Also, but like she becomes, like in tune with the Force in this movie,
Mhm.
which is fine. I like that. Good for her. But it just seems weird too that like now she like automatically knows how to like read those sensations and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm so wise in the Force." And it's like, "You didn't know anything about this. Your whole 22 years of being alive."
Well, I mean, in the last movie, she sensed Luke dangling from Cloud City, and that's how they saved him. So there's that.
Well, I know. And you know what? If we're going to go into like the feminist aspect of it too, it's always bothered me that like Leia never got to be like a Jedi. Which I know
Mhm.
they try to fix that in like the Disney universe of Star Wars. That doesn't work for me, but whatever.
Mm-hmm. We'll get into that I'm sure we'll have plenty of things to say about the Disney versions. Yeah, so it's weird to me, the Vader one, I kind of understand that Obi-Wan didn't want to like lay that on Luke like so early. It's like, oh yeah, there's this war and there's Jedis. And by the way, he's your father, your Nazi father. Like it's a lot to take in, You're trying to get this guy inducted into the war and it's just you don't want to, hit him with a truth bomb that big all of a sudden.
Sure.
But with Leia, like it's just weird looking back on Luke and Leia's friendship, I guess you could say, in the first two movies, knowing that they're siblings and they're twins. It's a
Yeah.
little icky for.
Hey, you know what? If we're all engrossed in the world of, Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon and we let it go there, and that's a lot more rampant incest. So I think we can survive
Yes,
this.
we're very engrossed by it. You're right, very engrossed, being the key word.
Can I talk about something now?
Yes, please.
Okay, so in my reviews here, so you have arguably, the femininity of Princess Leia, you have the gold bikini, you have like the sex symbol of sci-fi, whatever. And then they
Mhm.
get to Endor, and I'm like, what are you doing to this poor girl? Because the Maid Marian hair, and I'm back to it. Empire was full of nothing but Swiss milkmaid hairstyles. And then you get Endor, and she's got down to her waist Maid Marian hair, and I am just not on board. That scene that she's on like the rope bridges talking, I'm like, you've aged this poor woman 40 years. She looks awful. All
Well, I
I can
think
hear
that's the
playing in my
cocaine.
well, that's true too. But all I can hear in my head is the Kevin Costner Robin Hood film. Are you familiar?
Yeah, Prince of Thieves.
Yes, obviously. So my friend Danielle does this great impression of Maid Marian because in that film, there's this part where she, kisses Robin Hood and she goes, "Oh, Robin, I'm so happy." It's just like this weird voice that comes out of nowhere from that actress. And that's all I could hear. I couldn't focus on anything in the scene because I was looking at Carrie Fisher's terrible hair and hearing, "Oh, Robin, I'm so happy."
Oh, Luke, I'm so happy I'm your sister.
That's my tangent for this one. I can't. It's the hairstyles every time.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either, personally, but I wouldn't say it ruins the movie. So let's talk a little bit about the Endor stuff. The Endor stuff and the Ewoks have taken a lot of derision from fans for being too childish, for being too goofy. What do you feel about that?
Well, I'm fine with it. I mean, the Ewok stuff does feel kind of goofy as you watch it, but it's also kind of like, okay, there's a little bit of silliness in here. I think that maybe a lot of the stuff I don't like about this movie was added to appeal to children. It might be that's why they added that terrible lounge singer part to Jabba's palace because without it, it is pretty like ominous.
Mhm.
But like I've said, I'm a defender of the prequels, and people say the same thing about Phantom, that it's just really childish and hokey, and
Mhm.
I love that movie, so maybe I'm all for the kids stuff, but it doesn't like it's not unwatchable to me, and I don't watch the Endor scenes, and I'm like, ugh, this is a kids movie.
No, it doesn't ruin it for me either. I mean, like, I think the portrayals of the Ewoks are it's kind of funny, like it's a little bit of an interlude. I mean, I don't know if it works for the movie as a whole, as this, grand finale section of the movie to have these Ewoks running around like they're minions, but like inherently, I don't mind the scenes in a vacuum, you know?
Yeah, and maybe I would have liked, I guess I agree with that point. Like, maybe I would have liked for them to not be such a central focus of the film.
Mhm.
As like side characters are kind of funny. I think it's fun to have a planet that's just kind of these like lost boy teddy bear
Well,
characters.
Endor is
Like,
actually a forest moon, Tanner. It's not a planet.
okay, check it, nerd. I can't. But yeah, for them to be like the ending, finale civilization, it's like, oh, all right.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a little strange, and it's weird for me, like when we have the third act climax, and it's cutting back and forth between Luke and Vader and the Emperor in the throne room, and that's cutting back to Han and Leia infiltrating the base on Endor, and then it's cutting back to teddy bear madness. It's just a little bit jarring to me to see that transition.
Yeah, I guess I never thought about that, but I would agree because the stuff in space is so much more ominous than what's happening on Endor. So it's kind of
Mhm.
like, oh, this juxtaposition is not great.
Yeah, so I could have used less Ewoks in the climax of the movie, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because the space battle is great, and the throne room stuff is probably the best part of the movie is Luke, Vader, and the Emperor.
Yeah, who doesn't love watching that old man get yeeted down the elevator shaft?
Yeah, and it feels like it feels massive enough in scale and stakes to be the final confrontation of this trilogy, is to have the ultimate evil, to have the unwavering hero, and then to have the reformed villain, come together and duke it out. Like that stuff is the best part of the movie for me. That's like what I originally like a year ago or so, I keep, lists of all my movies. So I update like my ratings, my rankings and stuff. And I actually, a year or so ago, updated my ranking to a 4 out of 5 for this movie because I, was remembering the grand finale. I ended up knocking it back down to 3.5 again after watching it.
Are we gonna give are we gonna give our rankings of the original trilogy, or do you want to hold off until we are done with all 9 of them and rank
No,
them
let's
all?
all 9 and the spin-offs. Yeah, we're gonna wait until the Mandalorian comes out and we're gonna add that to it. So no, we'll hold off for now. But keep it in mind.
All right.
So yeah, I mean I love the Emperor stuff. I think it's the best part of the movie. I mean, it's kind of like that cliche where you have two characters that you want to be heroes, but you can't have them come into conflict with each other anymore. So you have to create this new, worse villain. It's like the Batman versus Superman formula where you have, oh, well, we can't have them fight each other. Let's make this new villain for them to fight together, But I think it's the best version of that, It works.
Yeah.
And Luke and Vader's battle in the throne room is as exciting as it needs to be because you really feel the flurry of emotions going through Luke in that moment. And, and the beat of him, turning away from the dark side, it works so well because you can feel the conflict in him. It's not just an empty, tease to the audience, like, oh, is he gonna break bad? Like you actually do feel that in that moment where he's just laying on Vader and he cuts off his robot hand,
And that, folks, is called acting.
Yes. So I think actually I was watching this. Speaking of acting, I was watching this movie again, and I was thinking to myself, the first movie, I feel like the standout is Han and Leia, and the second movie actually, they're both the best parts of the movie. But in this one, I feel like Luke is the best part of the movie, and his own personal journey that is exemplified through Mark Hamill's performance.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's fitting because this, as like the end of this trilogy, I think it kind of should be Luke's focal point.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy for him in that regard. But yeah, in the first, I hate Luke in the first movie.
You gotta go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters. But just to segue into Han and Leia, I was really rewatching this kind of underwhelmed by their dynamic in this movie. Like, it's not up to snuff.
Yeah, because I think they do a really good job. Part of what I love so much about Empire is like the you really get a lot more character building. And you get that a lot with like Han and Leia's relationship, which I think is great. You get that with Luke growing as like a Jedi, which is great. And I think that they really kind of like took the peak of Han and Leia confessing their love. And then it's just kind of not really mentioned a lot in the third one.
No.
And they're almost kind of like fighting in it.
Well, and it's like it's a fighting over a misunderstanding because Han thinks that Leia loves Luke and over him.
And I'm like, well, she literally confessed her love to you as you were about to be frozen into carbonite and didn't say anything about Luke. And you were like, I know. And it's like, you can't deliver that iconic line and then spend this movie really not knowing, because clearly you don't, pal.
Yeah. And then they like resolve it at the end by him being like, you love him, don't you? And she's like, of course I do. And he's like, well, I understand. And she's like, he's my brother. And I'm just like, why was this like conflict even a thing? You know, like I hate when a conflict in a movie is just built on complete misunderstanding, you know?
Yeah, because you could, I mean, it's a conflict that could have been resolved in 6 seconds.
And we know it. So like, why are we still dealing with it from Han's point of view, you know?
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of Frozen 2, like the conflict between Anna and Kristoff, where he thinks she doesn't want to get married to him or whatever. And I'm just like, just fucking talk it out. Like, this isn't a conflict. This is this is just misunderstanding on top of misunderstanding, you know?
Yeah, but we have to have those conflicts that are easily resolvable but can't be resolved because it's for kids.
It's just annoying to me. It's so annoying.
And kids are too stupid to figure out plot points on their own.
Yeah. Okay, so the story, the narrative storytelling of this movie is a little bit of a hindrance for me for a lot of different reasons, and it and I don't feel like a lot of it flows together for me. Like the Jabba's palace sequence kind of feels like its own short film, and then you get the rest of the movie that is the actual movie. So I still like the movie. I think it still ends well. Like defeating the big bad, you know, atoning with your father. You know, this movie places a nice bow on things as far as like ending the franchise. So in a way, it's a little messy and disjointed overall, but I think it like finishes well. So overall, I enjoy this movie for being able to finish, you know?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to mention movie wise?
No, I think I covered it. I mean, really my big my big controversy with this was, again, Carrie Fisher's hair, and we covered that.
If you want to start a movie hair podcast later, we can do that too.
See, and you know, let's go into hair and makeup where I have no right to talk about it because I don't know how to do any of it. And I have, you know, hardly any hair and don't wear any makeup. So, but if there's one thing I'm good at, it's judging other people.
Yes, that's what podcasts are for. That's what the internet is for.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done a review of the movie. So yeah, overall, I like it. Not the best, but good enough, you know?
Yeah, same. Not my fave, but it's good.
So we actually do agree a little bit more than I thought we would. But I know we're not going to for the next one. Stay tuned for next week, folks. We're going to get into the ring. Anyway, but let's finish up Jedi. So, Tanner, we've watched the movie. We're in 1983. The movie comes out. The movie makes is another big hit, although not quite as big of a hit as the last two. It makes worldwide $480 million, which today would be $1.6 billion. So it's $1 billion grosser today. So yeah, pretty freaking good still. Domestically, it makes most of that domestically. It makes $314 million here in the North America, which today would be just over $1 billion, which is still kind of crazy to think that this movie made that much money stateside.
Yeah, because I feel like nowadays you don't break $1 billion without the Asian market.
No. So this is obviously the highest grossing movie of 1983. The next highest grossing movie was Terms of Endearment with $108 million. So it was by quite a margin.
Yeah.
It also broke a bunch of other records. Opening day, the highest opening day gross with $6.2 million, beating Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, not Revenge of Khan.
Well, maybe Star Trek would have done better had it been named Revenge of Khan.
Ooh, Lucas! It also has a $30 million opening weekend gross for Memorial Day. It's in 1,000 theaters. We kind of talked about the last two movie episodes where they released it slowly. Like the first one, they didn't even know it was going to be a thing, so they obviously didn't release it hardly at all at first. The second time for Empire, they they slowly release it because it worked the last time. This time they say screw it, and they put it in over 1,000 theaters off the bat. And the top 10 that same week, interesting to note, were also Flashdance, Tootsie in its 24th week of release, and E.T. in its 51st week of release.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You might be saying, Tim, wait, but E.T. came out in 1982. And I'd be like, yes, you're right. It did.
And it was still lining up crowds down the block.
Yeah. Which doesn't happen anymore today.
No, sadly. But you know what? That's exciting because those are all great movies.
Even Flashdance?
I love Flashdance. I think it's awesome.
Okay.
All right. I feel like there's something in your voice that disagrees with that, but okay.
I mean, this isn't a Flashdance podcast, but I think the movie's just okay. But
Tim, it's a movie podcast. We can talk about the ones we like.
It's just, it's got two great dance sequences, and the rest of the movie's not great. That's my Flashdance take. Anyway, so this movie opens big, Jedi, that is. It breaks the Wrath of Khan's opening weekend record as well. So, screw you, Star Trek, for riding our coattails. We're going to do it better than you can. It makes $22,000, almost $23,000 per theater average, which, I'm kind of a box office nerd. I like looking at these numbers. I know what they kind of mean in context. Just to put that in context for you guys, though, this record stands until Avengers Endgame, like 36 years later.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So huge hit opening weekend. It was number 1 at the box office until Superman 3 came out 4 weeks later. Definitely not as good.
Nope.
And just to hammer that notion home, with Superman 3 being an inferior threequel, it surrendered the number 1 spot the very next week back to Star Wars. And it was number 1. Jedi was number 1 for 3 more weeks until Staying Alive, which is the sequel to Saturday Night Fever.
Oh my God. You know what? That makes sense in context of disco lyrics.
Oh yeah. They just named the movie after the song in the movie.
Yeah. I feel like I should have got that now, but I've also never seen it. So
I've never seen the sequel, although I know it was directed by Stallone, and it was a huge flop. Yeah, it was a huge critical flop. Anyway, so yeah, Jedi sells 80 million tickets in its first release. After re-releases, the movie has made now domestically $482 million. So that's an extra like $170 million. It was recently released, I think, a couple of years ago in 2023 for the 40th anniversary, and it did pretty well then too. Yeah, it was actually 4th of the box office that week. So yeah, another big financial success for Fox on the Star Wars front. Audience reaction was just as positive as ever. It got an A+ Cinema Score. Tanner, are you familiar with Cinema Score?
No.
So Cinema Score is basically is the service that they pull people that are coming right out of the movie. What would you give this movie a letter grade?
I would love that job. You just accost them as they walk out the theater. You're like, sir, did you love it or you hate it? A through F, go. I would love it.
I don't know exactly how it works because, for all the thousands of movies I see in theaters, that's never happened to me. But yeah, so Cinema Score is it's a good litmus test for how a movie is received relative to expectations, because some movies can get A+ Cinema Scores or A Cinema Scores that are bad, but because they, the right audience went to go see it, they knew what they were getting into, they got what they expected, they give high Cinema Score ratings. So you'll often get low Cinema Scores for great movies that were a little more subversive, Hereditary, I know, got a really bad Cinema Score, even though it's considered one of the best horror movies of the century. So yeah, so it all kind of depends on what they are expecting to get into. So this movie getting an A+ Cinema Score is very rare nowadays for a movie to get that. But Empire also got that, by the way. So audiences got exactly what they wanted with this movie.
It's very rare for a movie to get an A+ Cinema Score now.
Yeah, you can. Let's see. We could look it up.
You know why? Because everybody's a critic.
Pretty much. Let's see. I'm gonna look it up really quick. Movies with an A+ Cinema Score, and it's not entirely what you would expect in terms of the best movies of all time. Let's see. Let's do recent ones.
Give me the top 5, and then I'll give you my Cinema Score.
Top 5 of Cinema Score?
Yeah, just give me the top 5 that have an A+, and I'll give you what I think that I would Cinema Score them.
How am I figuring out the top 5? There's over 100 movies.
Just give me the first 5 that you see.
Well, it's by release year.
So just go to the newest 5, Tim.
That's what I was going to do until you interrupted me. I said I was going to go to I was gonna go to the new one. Okay, so this is 2026. The most recent cinema score with an A+ is Epic, Elvis Presley in concert.
Oh, haven't seen it.
I Can Only Imagine 2, which is a faith-based movie. A lot of these faith-based movies get, high cinema scores because, the audience going to see them is the people who, get what they expect, that's the
Yeah,
audience.
they're going in there with
and
an
nobody else.
expectation.
Yeah, and nobody else who isn't part of that demographic isn't going to see that movie, so they're not
That's
going to rate
true.
it. A couple other ones that I want to just throw out there I'm looking at right now here for 2025, Gabby's Dollhouse the movie, A+ cinema score.
Ugh, D.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see it, but
I didn't see it either, but I'm not going to go watch Gabby's Dollhouse.
another couple ones I'm seeing, Sound of Freedom, that big whole weird movie that came out of nowhere a few years ago, got an A+. Top Gun Maverick got an A+.
Oh, I would also give that an A+.
Spider-Man No Way Home got an A+. Sing 2 got an A+.
Really? You know what? Congratulations, Reese Witherspoon.
So it's a little random in terms of what movies get it, but it all comes down to like how the movie is marketed and how it's received, and if those two things align, So
yeah,
anyway.
It does seem a little like, I see how it can be biased to like demographics, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, audiences who saw it loved it. Great response. They love the ending of this franchise, or at least the ending as it were. Critically, it's a little bit more mixed. It got mostly positive reviews, but coming off of New Hope and Empire, it was definitely a little bit more underwhelming. Some of the positive reviews praised it for things like, childlike wonder and adventure. They still really appreciated those aspects. But there were some negative reviews too. They thought in relation to the first two movies, it was more dull. It wasn't quite as thematically engaging, and they didn't think the actors did as good of a job. And I think I agree with all of that.
Yeah, me too.
Like, if you think about it, like you have New Hope, which is brand new storytelling, world building, very successful at those things. And then you have Empire, which is a little bit deeper, a little bit darker, a little bit more storytelling, complex. And then you have Return of the Jedi, and it's not as complex. So you already have that not going for it. And then you have the fact that it's not brand spanking new like A New Hope. So it's not quite as magical. It's just kind of more run of the mill,
Yeah.
So it was a little bit more of a mixed reception in terms of critics, but still a success, I guess. The movie was nominated for 4 Oscars, again mostly just technical awards. It was nominated for art direction, losing to Fanny and Alexander. John Williams' score was nominated. I was also nominated for special effects editing and sound. Those last 3 all lost to The Right Stuff. I haven't seen either of those movies personally, so I don't really have an opinion on that.
But I'm like, how does John Williams lose to anybody else?
Well, I mean, like, he's probably working with mostly his, previously established musical material. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how original score like qualification works, but I guess they figured we gave it to him for Star Wars, the first one. Let's give it to somebody else.
That's true. Okay, yeah.
The movie does win an Oscar, not a competitive one, but it wins a Special Achievement Oscar for visual effects. This is, before that was a competitive category with multiple nominees. But I mean, you weren't really getting very many movies like Star Wars back then. So like, what's the next thing you're going to nominate? Like, Cujo?
Here's your participation ribbon. Thank you.
And at that point, like, no one's gonna be like, oh, who's gonna win? Is it gonna be Jedi or Cujo? So not much of a suspense there. So yeah, now let's get into the later releases. So the special edition, we already talked a lot about the the aliens in Jabba's palace. They added the frog lady and the cockroach man, or whatever you call them.
They're horrible.
Yes, they are. And the song is horrible. They have a different song as well in that sequence. Also added to the special edition releases, they added, and I didn't know this at first, they added a beak to the Sarlacc in the pit.
Oh, I didn't know that was added either.
Yeah, it looks kind of, I mean, now that I knew that going into this, I was looking for it and I was like, oh, okay, that is CGI. But the longest time I just thought that was part of the, the practical effect on top of the the tentacles and shit. So yeah, that one works fine for me. They also added all these different worlds celebrating the downfall of the Empire. Did your version have this sequence, Tanner? Watching this?
Yeah, because I literally watched it and I was like, what the hell is Naboo doing in here?
Yeah. Yeah, so they definitely go to some places that we've never seen before, which if you're watching, it's weird. If you're watching these movies like we are, like in order of release date, like say you haven't seen the prequels and you're just getting to Star Wars, someone's sitting you down, you're watching New Hope, Empire, Jedi, and you're watching the end of Jedi, and you get to like these other planets that are all CGI, and you're like, where the hell is that?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I know that, they've been reorganized and they are supposed to be watched in like chronological order and not release order. But yeah, if you want to watch them the way that the world watched them, you would get those worlds and be like, I don't know what this is. You'd get Hayden Christensen as a Force ghost and you'd be like, who the fuck is this guy?
While you're actually, I wanted to talk about this really quick. Since you brought it up, have you heard of the Machete Order?
No.
So the Machete Order is a recommendation for watching the first two trilogies, whereby you start with New Hope, your introduction to the universe. You watch Empire. And then you get to that twist where it's like, no, I am your father. And then instead of watching Jedi, you go back as if you're doing a flashback and you watch the prequels.
I don't hate that to me, I like that order as someone who has seen them a lot and someone who knows the lore. But I feel like I don't like that order if I was watching it for the first time, because I feel like that's the kind of movie experience where I'm going to pull down my, Venn diagram and pull out my laser pointer and be like, and this is where this comes in. Like, but I see what you're saying.
I never watched it that way either, but I think it's interesting to, if you're going to watch these movies again, I mean, obviously we're doing it in release order for the podcast because we're doing like a whole like history of things, so it wouldn't make sense to jump around. But if I was to rewatch this on my own, these movies, I might try that, and it might be interesting.
Yeah,
because then after you get Vader's flashback, you go back to Jedi, and then in Jedi you get the catharsis of his full redemption, because you saw his turn to the dark side previously, and then you see him redeem himself by killing the Emperor, and then you see Hayden Christensen show up. So in that order, it's supposedly a little bit more fluid, I guess.
Yeah. I would agree. I mean, I could see that point.
Speaking of Hayden Christensen, though, he wasn't added as the Force Ghost Anakin until 2004 DVD release. So it's a little bit after the special edition stuff that I guess they just, shot it on the set of like, hey, we're shooting Revenge of the Sith. Hayden, stand over here and just kind of look like you're at a party. And then they just
like bobbing his head. Yeah, okay.
In the original scene in 83, Sebastian Shaw was the Vader Force Ghost as well. So they basically just replaced him in the new ones with Christensen.
I'm glad I'm not an actor, because I would just be too offended if they were like, yeah, you got to shoot 2 whole scenes in this movie, we're also replacing one of them. I would just be like, oh, all right, fuck me, I guess. Like,
would you prefer it if it was Sebastian Shaw over Christensen?
I mean, I don't. I think with the addition of the prequels, it makes more sense to have it be Hayden
pre-dark side turn.
Yeah, I don't mind it as like a fan. If I was the actor, if I was Sebastian Shaw, I'd be like, well, this is kind of fucked.
Now I have to look up if Sebastian Shaw was even alive at this point, or if he's still. Nope. Yep, he died before we got to see it, so they'd have to worry about his opinion.
Okay, well.
Okay, so anyway, the last change that was done, at least as far as home releases, came in 2011 for the Blu-ray edition. This is where they actually add Vader's dialogue as he kills the Emperor when he shouts, "No, no!"
The no before the yeet?
Yes, the no before the yeet is added in later.
Well, I have that edition then, because he yelled no in mine.
Yeah, mine too. And I like that. I mean, I know people think that the Vader no is kind of cheesy, and it is. It's cheesy at the end of Revenge of the Sith when he, is turned into Vader originally. Yeah. I don't like it there. So I know it's meant to parallel that, but I like it here because I don't know, just to have him go through this huge change in the span of like 30 seconds as his son's being electrocuted to death, and then, completely change his philosophy and murder his boss. Like, I don't think he would do that silently,
Well, and I feel like you kind of need the no, because with the, he wears a helmet and a mask. Like, we don't get to see if he's wrestling with that decision or he's trying to decide what he's going to do, in real time with just like facial expressions, because we don't get that from that character. So I think
Mhm.
for him to just walk over and pick up the Emperor and throw him without anything is kind of like, oh, okay. So I'm fine with it because I think without it, we don't know that he's actually like making a conscious decision.
Yeah, I'm fine with the shoe. That's a good explanation. And then the last thing they added for the Blu-ray is that sandstorm deleted scene that we mentioned earlier. It wasn't on mine though, so maybe you have to like activate that, like in the menu or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, so that's the last version of the movie we get. Talk a little bit about the legacy of this movie. Obviously, this is the last Star Wars movie for 16 years. I can't believe that they, I get that this movie like completes a whole story, a whole trilogy, but I can't believe that Fox was like, okay, we're done for so long.
Well, yeah, I mean, and maybe it's because, even though I feel like every one of them, it's kind of like a steady decrease in performance.
Mhm.
They're still making, over $1 billion domestically, like we said. So, I mean, they're still huge hits.
Yeah, and I'm sure,
I mean-
and I'm sure we'll get into this when we do Phantom Menace. That I'm sure a lot of it had to do with Lucas's motivation to do more. But it is crazy to me that we only get 3 of these things in the span of like 6 years, and then nothing for over a decade and a half. But anyway, I mean, this movie also is interesting in the fact that I feel like this is kind of like New Hope and Empire have been pretty much praised for their entire lifespan from release to now. But I feel like Jedi has kind of undergone this interesting, like, kind of bell curve where it came out and people were like, oh, yeah, this is amazing. We love it. It's Star Wars. It's the end. It's the finale. It's great. And then I feel like afterwards, as time went on, everyone was like, oh yeah, Return of the Jedi, definitely the weakest one of the trilogy. And then I feel like eventually it came back around with people saying, oh no, Jedi's my favorite. I love Jedi.
Really?
Anyway, am I wrong in that? Like, I feel like that's what's been going on.
Like recently, Jedi becomes the favorite.
Not the favorite, maybe, but just as good,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like my whole life I've always heard like pretty positive stuff. I think it's always been like society's consensus that like Empire is the best. But
Mhm.
yeah, I guess I would agree with that. I feel like I've never really heard anything negative about it.
Maybe some of that comes from like people who were, who saw this movie when they were kids, and then they grow up and they have opinions all of a sudden, and they,
Sure.
so the people who saw these as adults were the ones that were like a little bit underwhelmed generally. But then the people who are saying it now that they love it are people who didn't have that kind of voice back then. And that tends to happen a lot. I don't want to get into prequel stuff just yet, but that definitely happened with the prequels.
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, that's Return of the Jedi. We've unpacked it, we've dissected it, we've analyzed it, we sent it to the lab, we brought it back, we got the results. We're all done with Jedi.
I think everybody's done with listening to us talk about Jedi.
Okay, so let's talk about something else. That's a good segue. Let's talk about anything else you want to talk about in terms of pop culture, Tanner. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I woke up today and there was some news reports that I don't know if they're confirmed, but they seem to come from credible sources on social media that there is now an official Game of Thrones film in the works. We'll see where they go with that. It appears to be leaning towards the direction of a follow-up to Game of Thrones.
Oh,
I'm intrigued.
Is that breaking today?
Yes, that did come out today.
Oh, I haven't looked over the
and
news yet.
Of course, they just use stock images of Jon Snow, so I don't know if it's going to follow him. I don't know if they're going to try to attempt the resurrection of Daenerys. We'll see what happens with it.
Well, so as a big Game of Thrones fan, how are you feeling?
I mean, I'm hopeful. It depends on who's like writing it, I guess. I think the writers that just did A Night of the Seven Kingdoms did great.
Mm.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know where I would like to see it because I don't know what George R.R. Martin's plan is like for the finality of that story since he's not done writing it.
We're not getting that, Tanner. That's a pipe dream. That's never happening.
Yeah. And if it's a movie that follows Jon Snow, we'll see where it goes. Do I want to see more of him like north of the wall? Not particularly. I think that's kind of boring. Especially with the final events of Game of Thrones. I don't think there's a lot of threat up there. If they do try to go the route of resurrecting Daenerys, I'll be excited for that. I'm a Dany stan, as you know. I'm pretty insufferable about defending her.
Yes, you are.
So we'll see. And what else broke today? Palm Royale on Apple TV Plus got canceled. That was a big blow to me.
Oh, I haven't watched it.
I just love any like Kristen Wiig product. And I think that season 2 was really adding some cool stuff. They brought in Carol Burnett, so it was really cool to see her. Allison Janney's great in it. The cast alone for that show is like stacked. But it's fine. Season 2 ended with like a good enough wrap up, I think. But I would have liked to see more of that show.
Okay. I recently just got Apple, so maybe I'll look into it.
Yeah, check it out. I also oh, Tim, you and I had the pleasure of watching Scream 7 together.
Tanner, you can't have 3 different pop culture shoutouts. You're taking over all the pop culture shit. Let me go next.
If you want one, you can talk about Scream. Go ahead.
Yes. Well, okay. Yes. Okay. So my pop cultural shout out is Scream. I was actually concerned for a second. I'm like, oh, we're gonna have the same freaking pop culture shout out. But yeah. Okay. So let's talk about Scream. It's also mine. This is what I was going to talk about. I recently drove up to see you this last week, and because Scream is kind of our it's our North Star. It's like I don't know about you, but it's mine. It's my favorite thing of all time. You love it too. So we watch them together all the time. And we did it last time when 6 came out. I also drove up to see that with you and rewatched the old ones. So yeah, we watched all 12 Screams. No, sorry. We watched all 6 Screams. We watched all 6 Screams prior to this in the span of 12 straight hours.
Yes, I will say that we watched the first 6 Scream films in one night. That was a long night. Very fun though.
Yeah. And then we watched 7, which that's still fresh for me, that wound.
Yeah, I mean, spoiler free, of course, because it's still a new film. I came out of that movie like pretty pumped, and I was like, yeah, it was fine. I liked it better than 6. And I feel like you were like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah, I thought it was great. And then even just from the walk from the theater to our cars, I was like, ugh, I don't know. It's really started to taper off for me. And then over the next few days of processing, it did go pretty far down in my ranking.
Yeah, like coming out of the theater, I was like, is this better than 3 or is it worse than 3? That was my dilemma.
I still struggle with that because I think everybody agrees, like even the rankings I'm seeing online, Scream 3 is still at the bottom and then 7's usually above it. And I'm like, is Scream 3 a bad movie? Or do I just love it because of Parker Posey? And I think that Scream 3 is like, I think every Scream movie is good, including 7, including 3. There's not one of them that I don't enjoy watching. I think there's stronger ones than others. I love 3, but I think it's because we've got a lot of inside jokes about 3. I think 3 is saved mainly because of the Parker Posey and Courtney Cox dynamic, which I love in that movie so much. But that being said, like there's a lot of things about it that I think make it a weak installment.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's good. I would say it's hovering around okay, I guess. And this is the first Scream movie I would just say is bad. This is a bad movie. I really don't like it. They made a lot of swings and a lot of it makes sense for the times, like technologically. Like this is what Ghostface would do. I get it, but it doesn't work in the movie at all. Like just watching it, like this is held up even less for me in my memory the last few days. And I'm gonna go see it again because that's what I do with my favorite movie franchises. But yeah, this movie hurt me.
I was less connected to it than Tim is. Tim is taking a deep personal wound here. Do I think it was like probably the weakest of them? I sure do. Do I think the Ghostface reveal was not my favorite? I sure do. Did I still have fun watching it? Yeah, I did.
I mean, I remember living in a time when we had 2 different 11-year gaps between Scream movies. So I'm just glad that we're getting them on a semi-regular basis now. But boy, am I afraid that, if people hate this movie, we're gonna stop making them. We're gonna go right back to that.
I don't think so. Because we're gonna get the Disney effect here, where this movie already broke box office records. It's like the highest grossing of any Scream movie. So even though the critic reviews and the fan reviews are like, oh, it's terrible, we hate it, it's the worst one, it's an awful film, they've already greenlit Scream 8 because it's just for money purposes. And then if Scream 8 bombs because this one was poor, we might see the end of it. But
I just hope they learn the right lessons from this movie. Like, and the fact that they're making all this money isn't because they knocked it out of the park. I mean, I hope they learn, like, okay, this is what was wrong with the movie. We probably shouldn't have hired Kevin Williamson to direct a movie that he hasn't directed a movie in over 25 years. Like, I just like and I hope they learn that what went right with the last few and what went wrong with this one. And I hope that when they
Yeah.
do it, and they will make Scream 8, it's coming, like, because this movie is a huge money earner. But I just hope that they don't see the dollars signs of this movie and say, oh, just do that again, because I don't think they did it well.
No, and I think that if they do go that route and they do put out another movie like they just did, then that will be like the death of the franchise. Because I think right now you still have people that are like, you're getting this money because of the fan base. Like,
Mhm.
you have a loyal fan base. You have new fans that came in the, Scream and Scream 6 era that I think are still like hanging on to see what it's going to be like. But you're definitely going to start to lose those people after this one, I think.
Well, we've talked plenty about Scream, and I'm sure we will again. When it's a little bit. I know when we brought this podcast up, when we were developing this late in 2025, you said, like, "Oh, Tim, we're gonna miss Scream. Like, how are we gonna miss Scream? Because that's like our franchise, you know." And it just wouldn't have been feasible for us to debut those episodes back in like late December, early January. We weren't quite there yet in terms of our production, but we will do them eventually. I'm sure we will do the Scream movies.
Yeah, sorry, gang, because I wanted our first Back to the franchise to be Scream, but didn't work out.
No, we were a little late in the ball on that one, but we will get to it eventually. Especially if they do Scream 8 sooner than later, we will be getting there. We're not going to do it. We just have too many things to talk about. I could do a whole podcast on Scream, but I just didn't think that was as good of a of a concept. And they already exist, so whatever. Anyway, that's enough about Scream. I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm fine.
I don't think you are fine.
I'm fine. All right, let's say goodbye. This is the end of our episode. Tune in next week, though, for Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. We're getting into the prequels, baby. This is going to be messy. Let's do it.
Well, you guys better lock in because we have very differing opinions on these movies.
Yes.
And I'm very excited.
Yes, dude, very fun. We're getting to the good stuff. Not that this wasn't good, but we're getting to the really good stuff. So anyway, you can find me if you want to get in contact with me. I'm on Letterboxd. My handle is TGMacman, TGMACMAN. I'm very prominent on that one. That's pretty much all the social media I do. But Tanner, where can they find you?
I am on Instagram, but please don't contact me. Tim's like, if you want to find me, if you want to contact me, don't contact me. I'm too busy. I don't care. That was a joke. I'm sorry. That sounded snobbish.
No. I trust me. If we end up getting more listeners, it's going to be a thing. And I've worked for a YouTube channel before. It's not my favorite part of the biz is, dealing with, I should say dealing with fans, but how fans are, they can be. So
yeah, we're going to get the keyboard warriors. Don't come at me, guys. I don't have the patience for it.
But if you do want to, we do want to hear from you. So if you have very civil things to say about Star Wars, and I'm sure you do, like what else would you say if it wasn't civil? You can get in contact with us. We also have an email called questions@backtothefranchise.com. Give us your questions there. We will be taking questions as we go along. Obviously, we're recording this the day that our first episode came out, so we don't even have a fan base yet. So we haven't been able to take any questions, but we will in the future be at the end of the episodes answering questions. Whatever you want to talk about, ask us about our favorite movies, what we like recently, or just, top 10 favorite video games. I don't know. Whatever you want.
Yeah, dude. Start to email us questions or like letters of support. I will take support from any other prequel fans out there. I know Tim is not one, and I need you guys in my corner for this. So
yeah. Since we were talking about Scream so much, though, I will also plug my novel again. It's basically just Scream, but different. So if you like Scream and you wanted to read about Scream, that's basically Scream. Reading a book. It's basically a different version of Scream. Not that they should sue me or anything, but I mean,
it's not
different.
Close enough to get in trouble, but
no, but it's the same basic thing, premise wise. Anyway, so yeah, my book's called Stage Fright under the name Timothy Glenn. It's on Amazon. Read it. Anyway, with that, Thank you so much for listening. Tune in to us again next week. We are back to the franchise wherever you find your podcasts. I am having a little bit of an issue with Apple Podcasts right now, but I think we're going to resolve that. So we're on Apple, I assume, in the future. We're on Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube. We're everywhere. So just find us at Back to the Franchise. And thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
See ya. Bye.